It was a big night for Trish last night.
Dude, yeah, it was a big night. Yeah. Didn't love the night.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. We are now live.
Well, thank you and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council meeting for Thursday, May the 6th, 2021. Before we get underway, I'd like to ask the councilors present to acknowledge they're online and ready to go. So I'll start off with Councilor for District 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to be here, and we have a beautiful evening here in Eastern Passage and in District 3, and I am, happy to do the good work of Municipal Council.
Thank you. District 4. District 4.
I'm coming. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and everyone. Good to be here. And I was in District 3 earlier today, actually, and just admiring our beautiful municipality. So happy to be here and looking forward to the evening.
Thank you. District 5.
I'm here, Mr. Chair, ready to go.
Thank you. And District 6.
Mr. Chair, good evening. Good evening, everyone. All set to go. Let's give her.
Okay, we therefore have quorum and have an introduction. Who's on staff with us tonight? Our clerk, Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Simon Ross Siegel, legislative support for the meeting this evening.
And who's with you from the clerk's office?
Thank you. We have Micah Dory supporting as a producer and Liam McSween taking minutes.
Okay, great. Hi, Micah and Liam. All right, and who we have for a solicitor tonight?
Josh Judah. Good evening.
Hello, how we doing? And who we have for the planners, the planning crew tonight?
I'm here,
Evening,
Jamie
Council.
Ellen Klendovic. Sorry, Carl, go ahead.
Jamie Lynn's here. I see Carl Purvis. I
Hello.
see Maria Jacobs here. I see Thea Langell. Am I missing anyone else? I see Richard Harvey. Is anybody else I'm missing from the planning staff? All right, who else we have here? And we have a cart captioner. We have Shanayan, our cart captioner. I guess that's our closed caption audio. And who else we have on us tonight here? We have the name I don't recognize here. This must be for the meeting tonight. Okay, that must be it. I think we have everyone recognized for staff. Okay, next is the approval of the order of the minutes of March 25th and April 1st. An motion to approve those, please.
So moved.
Second by Mancini.
Moved and seconded. Any question on the minutes before calling for the question on the motion? Hearing none, motion to approve those minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Order of business. Mr. Clerk, do we have any changes or additions to the order of agenda, the business today we have before us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Community Council, we, through the clerk's office, have not received any requests for changes to the order of business or added items as of this time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask the clerk? I'm sorry, that's my puppy. Simon, should we be mentioning now that the number 19 date of next meeting is wrong? Shall we leave that till later?
I can make a note now. Yes, just a brief correction to the agenda. There is currently scheduled to be a special meeting as mentioned on May 20th. That'll be the next available meeting, and then the next ordinary special meeting will be following that on June 3rd.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll take a motion to approve the agenda as circulated, please.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Councilor Mancini, seconded by Councilor Purdy, was it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. No business arising from the minutes, is there? Are there any declarations tonight of conflicts of interest? Hearing none. Any motions of reconsideration, rescission, or deferred business? I see none on the agenda. I have no notice of tabled matters as is. Now we'll go to the public hearing. Item number 10.1.1, case number 22198, development agreement for 4442 Clam Harbor Road, Clam Bay. We have staff presenter Maria Jacobs to present. And we have applicants, I believe, present for Mr. Charles and Mr. Dalrymple. And we have two people signed up for this to speak tonight. We have Kim Thompson and Kevin Day are the ones registered for tonight's meeting. So prior to this, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight for this meeting, for the public hearings. This is a virtual hearing and similar to other public hearings. We'll start off with the staff presentation and give an applicant opportunity to present via telephone and then go to the public hearing for speakers on the matter. As a reminder that all speakers and those who are watching from home, in order to have signed in, you must have registered yesterday, a deadline of 4:30. And I have the final speaker list as presented earlier, as with Kim and Kevin on the list. Speakers reminded to remain mute until your name is called, or once you're called, unmute yourself on the phone and you have 5 minutes to speak. And once you've completed your comments, please remute your phone or then leave the meeting if you wish by hanging up the phone. These meetings are being webcast, and you can review the rest of the proceedings via the link on halifax.ca. All right. So first of all, let's call for the staff presentation for case number 22198, please.
Hello. Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if someone can put the presentation up. First slide. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair and members of Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council. Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Maria Jacobs, planner with Planning and Development. I'll be presenting this application this evening. This is a development agreement request for a salvage yard in the Eastern Shore West Plan area on the Eastern Shore. Slide 2, please. So the applicant proposal is for a continuing operation of an existing salvage yard in Clam Bay. The application was made by Heritage House Law on behalf of the property owner, Charles Dalrymple. The applicant seeks to legalize an existing salvage yard on the site and retain the existing automotive repair shop. Slide 3, please. So to give you a bit of a context of where this is, here you see a Google map, and where the dot is, that's Clam Harbor Bay, 442 Clam Harbor Road. And the blue, it's about an under a 47, an hour drive from Dartmouth, downtown Dartmouth. And just a slide, next slide, please, slide 4. There you go. A closer view of the existing salvage yard. It's approximately 11 acres for the salvage yard portion. And then there's 36 acres in remaining lands. You'll see the circle in red, and then also on the right, you'll see the slide of from the road 442 Clam Harbor Bay Road, and where the square is where the existing automobile repair shop is. Next slide, please. And these are just some site visits, photos of site visit. Working also with compliance for the first site visit in 2020, but these are photos from 2018 site visit and then also from last fall 2020. Next slide, please. So originally it came as a complaint, and in 2018 there was a guilty plea that was entered. In 2020, it was issued a compliance order, and the best path forward through this plan area was to go through a development agreement process to follow the plan areas for Eastern Shore West. Next slide, please. Slide 7. An overview of the land use bylaw. The site isn't hatched there, but that's the entire parcel. Not the portion in the front is where the salvage yard is. The zone is mixed use, and the designation is mixed use as well. As mentioned previously, there is an existing salvage yard there, and with a minor automobile shop. Next slide, please. Policy overview in the Eastern Shore West Plan area. As I said, it was a mixed use designation, And the overall intent of that mixed use designation is to support and encourage development of the rural economy. Also recognizing that salvage yards is a necessary fact of life. However, there was some need for controls of the number and the locations of these salvage yards. Therefore, policy MU 14 considers salvage yards and provides the criteria for council to consider. Slide 9, please. So here is the development agreement criteria that's in the plan area, in the planning line, municipal planning strategy. Things like separation distance from water courses and environmentally sensitive features, the scale and the appearance from the neighboring properties, safe access to and from the site, and maintenance for the ongoing operation of the salvage yard, and also to ensure that the appropriate permits, both at municipal and provincial level, are maintained. Next slide, please. Slide 10. So this is the proposed site plan. I'll just mention a number of things that are actually in the development agreement that are identified on the proposed site plan. As you notice here in circles, those are now the designated areas for storage, and they could be storage. They're storage for tires or other types of equipment or vehicle parts. There's also a crushing site that's identified on the site. There's now a 20-meter setback from there's a small wetland on the top. You'll notice there with the arrow. And then there's a small intermittent stream that goes through the property. Also, there's some landscaping and buffering view from the road. And now there was 2 driveways, but now it's been limited to 1 driveway, and then off-site parking as being provided. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, I'm back. Sorry. I should also mention that as part of the development agreement, we are asking for a stormwater management plan for the site. Next slide, please. For public engagement, we went through the standard application for development agreement. There were the website and the mail out notifications to 58 residents, a newspaper ad, and there was also a public information meeting on October 16th, 2019. There were 39 people, residents in the area that attended. Majority of the vast majority of the people that were attending were in support of the business and what it did for the community. And there was also a few questions on the impact it may have on the environment and how we are going to address those in the future, or how the salvage yard operators would address that. I received about 2 phone calls and emails, generally approximately. And since between March 1st and May 4th, we've had 58 web views of that web page. Next slide, please. Okay, in conclusion, so staff recommend that Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council recommend approval of the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially the same as the set out in attachment A of this report, and require the agreement be signed by the property owner within 240 days. We allowed for more days because of the COVID situation, and or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising thereunder shall be at an end. Likely.
All right, is that the, yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maria. Is there any questions of councilors on the presentation? Any questions from councilors? Councilor Kent, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anne, I was going to call you Anna. Sorry, Maria. I know you get that all the time. I have a couple of questions around the visual screening. Can you give us examples of what that would be, what the expectation would be there for the buffer? Well, in this case, a visual shelter for neighbors.
Right now, there are quite a bit there. If you looked at the site plan, there's quite a bit of a treed buffer, an existing treed buffer, and though that buffer would retain would stay there. They're existing trees, and if there were any trees that were removed, that would be considered a substantial amendment. So therefore, that those existing natural buffers are there between the two side property lines, and as well on the front there are some shrubs and landscaping to I guess the visual appeal from the road. And on top of that, they've applied, or they are installing a off-street parking lot on the right-hand side of the building, and the clearing of any debris or vehicle parts from anything from the road that you could view from the road would be removed as well and put further back.
Okay, and the one driveway, is that because there's only one driveway, or are they prohibited from adding any additional driveways?
No, right now there are two driveways, and Department of Transportation have looked at that, and they're on a curve. And so what they've decided that is better and safer just to have one driveway that goes to and allows for off-street parking instead of having the two driveways, just for safety reasons. So there's actually two driveways now, but one of them will be removed.
Thank you.
Councillor Purdy.
Thank you. I was wondering about the stormwater management plan. Is there a timeline for that, when that needs to be finalized and implemented?
Yes, so the stormwater, we looked at the site, even though it's an existing non-compliant use. We looked at it as an application that came in for a salvage yard, and so in that case, we would require a stormwater management plan prior to development permit being issued. So when they want to come in for a development permit for the salvage yard, they would have to have the stormwater management submitted. I also should mention that they are also doing a number of environmental studies that they have to do, and boreholes for the water as well, water quality, applying for the salvage yard licenses at the provincial level.
Are there any other questions from councilors? Hearing none, then I'll call for the applicant to come forward if they wish to make a presentation to the community council. And who do we have on? We have Mark Charles available, let's see, and who else we have with Mark?
I'm here, council, as well as Mr. Dalrymple, I think, is available by telephone.
Okay.
So we have a PowerPoint presentation. This was the presentation given at the previous public hearing, which yourself had attended. There are some small changes to it, but we figured we'd run through it. And Charlie's here at the end for any questions that you may have.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So I'll wait for Simon to put the presentation up. Perfect. So thank you all for coming here. We really appreciate the opportunity to meet with you and speak with you. We're happy to get this far along into the process, and we're happy with all the results we've had so far. My name, for those that don't know, I'm Mark Charles. I am a real estate and business lawyer with Heritage House Law Office in downtown Dartmouth. We'll move on to the next slide. The applicant, Charlie Dalrymple, is a lifelong resident of the Clam Harbour Eastern Shore area. He's been living in the present home. He's been living in this home for over 20 years. He has been a long-time small job mechanic. He's been employed in the community, but was also self-employed in this community, and even in this exact home for quite some time, running a mechanic shop in the late 90s, early 2000s. Of course, during that time, he was busy. He ended up amassing a large inventory of parts vehicles, but also end-of-life vehicles. And it's in this area that he really did see real growth, a real demand in the community for this kind of a service. So what we're bringing here, the mechanic shop is within the existing use application, but we're including it in the development agreement just so that we have all of our plans all together here moving forward. And we would like to, again, move that development agreement forward for the salvage facility, the salvage yard, as permitted underneath the bylaw use specifically with the development agreement. And the site plans that you've seen before, obviously have outlined our client's plan for the area. If we could move to the next slide, please. We will note that the last public hearing was well attended for the area, and we felt that it was a majority of positive support, and I think that's come forward in Ms. Jacobs' report, and also the fact that they are willing to recommend moving into this development agreement. We think there are a lot of benefits for the Eastern Shore, economic growth. It is a new business, a new service that is demanded out there. It gives the residents the ability to get that service out there. It'll prevent the need to have to tow a car into the HRM. You can have this kind of work done out there. It gives the ability to leave end-of-life vehicles to be stored and then broken down and serviced in that area rather than having, again, to bring them into the HRM. So it provides a service and convenience for the residents of the Eastern Shore. We'll move on to the next slide, please. We will note that Mr. Dalrymple, Charlie as I call him, has taken considerable steps in trying to put together a responsible plan for the operation in this location. He has hired engineer Stantec, has purported a significant series of reports addressing the needs and concerns of the community, but also any kind of environmental concerns. And if we can perhaps speak back to the impact on the neighborhood, the specific community, the residents there. The area is hidden by trees and natural buffers. So if you were to look at the home from the road, you wouldn't see a salvage yard. It's actually quite set back. This is on a little bit of a hill as well to keep that back. There'll be appropriate signage to show the proper entry and entrance from the property. And there will be a parking area. It's going to keep the cars off the road. To again comment on some of those questions, it was a Department of Transportation request to say we want those cars off the roads. We want them in there and parked safely, and of course we've met that requirement. So the impact on the local community is very small, and our client has made efforts to keep that small. Next slide, please. Again, our client has taken significant interest in assuming the environmental impact, reviewing the environmental impact, and his operation plan, the Stantec report, as provided to HRM previously, details all of that. One of the questions, again, to return to, there are buffers that are being adhered to that follow the Department of Environmental provincial requirements of setbacks of materials from watercourses. One of the small changes we've made there, we believe there are definitely man-made watercourses, and there is the likelihood of natural occurring watercourses, so that we are keeping our required setbacks from each spot every time. So again, we've taken the initiative to go forward and make sure that this is going to uphold all of the environmental considerations, but legislations as applicable. Next slide, please. Of course, our client is here asking for your support, and some of the benefits, some of the reasons why we would ask you to support this application as well. Is it does bring new business to the Eastern Shore. It brings more money into the Eastern Shore rather than any other area, but it also provides a needed business service in the Eastern Shore as well. So that's a benefit to all the residents that are out there. It's a service that is required out there and has been proven that it could be successful and viable out there. And I think it's also significant that our client has taken the time and spending the funds and effort to comply with environmental legislation and have answers for those questions. So we would suggest that this is moving forward responsibly at this time. And again, we would ask for your support for this application. If we can move on to the next slide. And then we could just process through. I think there's one more slide after that. So if there are any questions that councillors or anyone may have of me, I'm happy to answer. Or if Mr. Dalrymple had any questions or any comments here as well.
Thank you. You still have 3 minutes left in your time, according to my watch. So if Mr. Dalrymple wants to make any comments to the committee, please do so at this time if you wish, Mr. Dalrymple.
And just to remind speakers that who are joining by phone, you can unmute your phone by typing *6.
All right.
Hello.
See you. Hello.
Hi.
Is that you, Chuck?
Yeah, that's Charlie.
Okay.
In the light with, we'd like to make sure that all our vehicles down here are reusable and repurposed as well as recycled, and the fluids as well.
That's good.
And
all right.
hopefully people will approve of it.
All right. Do we have any questions of councillors on the applicant? Any questions of councillors? Councillor Kent, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Charles, I'm just wondering what you have in at play right now for your tires. They often end up being a fairly high pile before collected. Do you already have a place to rid yourself of them?
Yes, the department has came down and picked up some of the tires. We do have another load here for them now.
But you have all of that in place now?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of councillors? Hearing none. Okay, then. We'll go to the public hearing now. Those who have listed have Kim and Kevin. So do we have Kim Thompson on the line? Kim, if you're on the line, please hit *6 to unmute yourself, and you have yourself 5 minutes to present to council.
Hi, there we go.
Yes, we can hear you, Kim.
Great. And the video stays off, I guess, does it?
It's up to you.
It doesn't matter. Great. This is really interesting. I wanted in part to take part tonight to support Charlie, of course, but it's a great opportunity to learn about how public participation can happen in this time of COVID. So thanks to everyone on this call for continuing to keep us all involved. I'm going to read really quickly something that I wrote today in support of Charlie's application, and I'll speak to that after. So I'm supporting Charles's application to continue his existing salvage yard operation and automotive repairs. Charlie's talents in car and machine repair are well known and appreciated by many, many people on the shore. He brings incredibly much needed local services to our area, and he provides employment to lots of folks and generous mentorship, which isn't something that we always talk about, to anybody that's keen to learn firsthand the many skills that he has to share. He's always willing to help and keeps an astute eye to the community needs. He's always ready to find a part or a solution to move anyone's project along with the stores that he has in his salvage area. And I think that that's something that we I've worked for years with the Ecology Action Center and many other environmental organizations to try and figure out how we can repurpose and reuse so much that we feel should just go to landfills. And Charlie does a brilliant job being creative about how to repurpose and reuse things. His good work in Ship Harbour and the surrounding areas through his person and his businesses have had deep and lasting positive effects on our resource-stretched rural community. His generosity, creativity, and community care that he embodies are of a kind that many, many of us aspire to. I've known him as a neighbor for 20 years plus, and most recently since we started the Deanery project here in 2021. It's an environmental arts and learning center. We've come to appreciate more and more both his business roles and the way he is an active community collaborator in the educational work that we're doing. So I get excited about bringing out people from the community college, from the architecture school, to think about what we have in our communities that is not being utilized. And Charlie is always there to help us think through those problems and issues. And given the resources to build on that, I mean, that we've mentioned a number of times about rural economic opportunities. If he was given the support to build that out, I think we would continue to be a leading edge piece of what's possible here in Nova Scotia in terms of being really environmentally responsible. So yeah, Charlie shares our passionate commitment to lowering our individual and collective environmental impacts through repurposing and reuse of materials of all kinds. We've had, every time I meet with him on wherever, we have conversations along those lines. And his salvage yard currently serves that purpose, and we're really excited to see his vision grow and improve the services that he can provide through it. And we're also interested as an organization that uses low impact, environmentally responsible ways of working with the land to help him. And well, I've never said this to Charlie, I'm saying it to you right now, Charlie, that any way that we can help with around things like visual screening or making signage and really supporting that piece of our community that so many of us value. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from councilors for Ms. Thompson? Hearing none. Okay, thank you very much, Kim, for your input tonight. Appreciate it very much. You could hang up the phone, or you can still listen in. Just mute your phone, please. We have next on the list Kevin Day. Kevin Day, you're with us now to make your comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Simon Ross Siegel, Legislative Assistant. Kevin Day was previously on the call. However, I believe he has left the meeting. Staff have reached out several times to attempt to contact him with no success.
Okay. All right. Let the record show that Kevin was registered but not present at the current time. All right. Since we have no other speakers on the list, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing then.
So moved, Mancini.
Moved by Councilor Mancini, seconded by Councilor Kent. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. All right. I'd like to have the motion put forward. Councilor Kent, you'd like to put the motion on the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A of the January 19th, 2021 report, and require the development agreement to be signed by the property owner within 240 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeals periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end. So moved.
Seconded by Councilor Mancini. Are there any debate on the motion? I'd just like to go ahead.
I'd just like to offer some comments on it. I certainly happy to support this. I was encouraged actually to get to read the submissions around support of it. I have been representing this area, the Eastern Passage area of District 3 in many capacities, and salvage yards have been somewhat problematic. So I just want to encourage this property owner and to continue to steward the way he is. He clearly, people have a lot of respect for him, and no doubt that is probably not as measurable as even just the comments tonight. I would say that the number one concern that is brought to my attention more often than not is around the unsightliness of it, and that's why I ask questions around the buffers and the screening and such. It is it certainly is a business and a service to communities that is beneficial to many. Cars are not going anywhere right now, although as much as we want our transit systems to replace cars, you know, there will be a certain amount of them that are still around, and they need people need this kind of place. So even though we got a rocky start with not being a legitimate business, I'm glad that they took the time to come forward. With that comes responsibility, and I just want him to be aware that the screening and the unsightliness around it can potentially get people's dander up. So I hope that he'll give that serious thought, as well as the tires. That's the other piece. People are fearful of the potential for fires and such in relation to that. So happy to support it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments from councilors? I'll just take the liberty from the chair just to say that I was at the public information meeting back in October 2019, and it's very well attended, and a lot of positive comments came from it. Mr. Dalrymple is highly respected and regarded in the community, and I think the issues that Councillor Kent raised were very pertinent that night in regards to visibility, screening, environmental stewardship, and safeguards, where some of the matters are all discussed. And I trust that as this application moves forward to development agreement and getting permits, all those things will be adhered to as required. So I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Mr. Dalrymple and Mr. Charles, for your time. And Kim, thank you very much for your input. Have yourselves a good evening. I'll call for the next order of business now. Is case number 22797, rezoning and development agreement for 95 Caledonia Road in Dartmouth. Staff, we have Jamie Ellen making a presentation, please. Jamie Ellen there.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Chair. Can I just get the slides on the screen? Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jamie Ellen Klinovic, and I'm a planner with the Urban Enabled Applications team at HRM. Next slide. This is a public hearing for case 22797, which is an application to rezone property at 95 Caledonia Road in Dartmouth from C1 to C2, and to enter into a development agreement to allow a 5-story apartment building with ground floor commercial uses. Next slide. This is the site's location. The image on the left shows the site on Caledonia Road, north of Main Street and east of Lake Micmac, outside the ring of the circumferential highway. On the right, the site is highlighted in red at the southeast corner of the intersection of Caledonia Road and Kennedy Drive. Next slide. Currently occupying the site is a single-story commercial plaza with surface parking. This image was taken from Caledonia Road. The buildings in the background are fronting on Kennedy Drive. Next slide. There's an HRM park with a playground located to the east of the site. This is a view from inside the park with the existing building on the site visible in the background. Next slide. This is the west elevation of the proposed building, which is the Caledonia Road elevation. Next slide. The north elevation would face Kennedy Drive. Access to interior parking would be from this side. This image shows how the proposed building steps back from the east property line. Next slide. This is the east elevation, which is the interior lot line facing the HRM park. The dark area at the bottom is a single-story covered parking garage. Next slide. And this is the south elevation. Caledonia Road would be on the left of this image and the HRM park down the small hill to the right. Next slide. Here we see the site plan for the proposed development. As you can see, it is a roughly U-shaped building with 2 3-story bump outs on the elevation facing the HRM Park, which will be at the top of this slide. There is a small surface parking area on the south end of the site to the right, and both the south and east sides of the site will have a 6-foot privacy fence. Next slide. 95 Caledonia Road is designated commercial and currently zoned C1 in the Dartmouth Plan area. The C1 zone does not permit apartment buildings, so the site must be rezoned to C2. C2 is a stacked zone and permits R3 uses, including apartment buildings. However, the Dartmouth Plan requires a development agreement for any building with more than 2 dwelling units, unless the building is in the Main Street designation, which this one is not. Therefore, to be permitted, the proposed development requires both a new zone and an approved development agreement. Next slide. The relevant policies of the Dartmouth NPS are IP1C and IP5, and they enumerate the following criteria to evaluate the proposal: compatibility and consistency with adjacent uses in built form, whether the proposal includes landscaping, buffering, and screening, the adequacy of existing street and service networks, proximity to schools and recreation amenities, discouraging a scattered development pattern or sprawl, safe pedestrian movement within the site, drainage and soil stability, the adequacy of parking, whether the proposal includes usable amenity space, and encouraging preservation of mature trees and other natural features. Next slide. The level of engagement completed was consultation achieved through a mail-out information sheet, signage on the site, and an HRM case webpage. We did not hold a public information meeting for this application. Feedback from the community was generally positive. The community expressed significant concern over housing affordability and quality in this area. Residents also expressed concern about the potential impact of shadows on the adjacent HRM Park. We mailed 667 notices for the public hearing and had lots of uptake on the website with over 1,300 pages. Next slide, please. The development agreement would approve a new 5-story apartment building on this site with ground floor commercial uses. All commercial uses will be permitted on the ground floor except adult entertainment uses, adult cabarets, adult theaters, billboards, cannabis production facilities, and uses that would create a nuisance or a hazard to the public. The development agreement does not include a maximum amount of permitted commercial space, but does require that it be on the ground floor. The number of dwelling units is also not explicitly regulated in the agreement, but the applicant has suggested that there will be just under 60 units.
Have we lost her?
Yeah, we lost. Gemma, you still there with us? You've gone silent.
Jimmy Ellen's still in the meeting, but appears to be muted. Just a moment.
Hi, am I back?
Yes.
Okay, where did you lose me?
You were speaking about the 5 stories not to exceed the elevator, and you're getting onto the ground floor commercial uses.
Super. Okay, so slide 14. The number of dwelling units is not explicitly regulated in the DA, but the applicant has suggested there would be just under 60. Of these, the DA requires that 30% have at least 2 bedrooms. At least 40 vehicle parking spaces must be provided inside the building. Surface parking is also permitted in accordance with the site plan shown earlier, but is not required. Bicycle parking is required in accordance with the land use bylaw. And 5 square meters of indoor or outdoor amenity space will be required per dwelling unit. The proposed building transitions well from the lower height buildings south of the site to the taller buildings along Kennedy Road and Roliga Drive. The proposed design places the mass of the building on Kennedy Drive and Caledonia Road sides of the site, away from the park and away from the single-story dwelling to the south. Next slide. Proposed non-substantive amendments include changes to landscaping requirements, granting an extension to the date of commencement of construction, granting an extension to the date of completion of development, changes to architectural requirements that do not impact the massing of the building, and changes to sign requirements. Next slide. So this is the approval process that this application is following to get to the finish line, which is permitting. This evening's public hearing is represented by the dark blue square in the top row. This evening we'll be asking council to make a decision on the rezoning only. If council approves the rezoning, the decision will be subject to a 14-day appeal period, which will be publicized in the Chronicle Herald. Once either the appeal period is over or any appeals are resolved, staff will bring the proposal back to council for a decision on the development agreement, which is also subject to a 14-day appeal period. Next slide. This application is coming forward with a positive staff recommendation, and staff recommend that Community Council adopt the amendment to Schedule 1, which is the zoning map of the land use bylaw for Dartmouth, as said in attachment A of the staff report dated January 22nd, 2021. Next slide. So that's it for me. That's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you very much. I believe Councilor Mancini, you have a question, please, for the staff.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jimmy Allen, thank you as always. Your presentations are always great. I know tonight we're here to discuss rezoning. So, but my questions are more around the design of the building, more questions around what's the street experience going to be. Can you explain to me where in the process or when do we get to address that? Do we do that at the development agreement time, or should we be getting into that this evening?
So this public hearing addresses both the rezoning and the development agreement. We're just making the decision on the rezoning tonight, but we can discuss the development agreement as part of this public hearing.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, if I may, I do have some questions in Jimmy Allen around the design. So first of all, I feel, colleagues, that we all know that we need residential units in HRM and particularly in Dartmouth. Even though there's a long history in this building, the building is way past its age, and I think a nice building in this area will really help the community. But my concern is that, you know, I look at the building and the artist rendition that's been shared with us this evening. I don't see anything special here. I mean, there's an opportunity to put a nicer building, in my opinion, and I'll be interested to hear from my colleagues on that on the site. And also, how do we encourage a really good street experience on this corner? There's an opportunity here. I understand we're going to have commercial on the bottom, but, you know, it'd be great to have, you know, a bakery, to have a nice cafe, or to encourage people to walk. This is a walking community, right? So we have a lot of facilities nearby, the school, Beasley Field, the park not too far away, and so on playgrounds. So those are the concerns I have, is design and that street experience. So I don't know how we, you know, the applicant is listening, but where we go from here on that, Jimmy Allen?
So the focus of this policy in the Dartmouth NPS is very much on compatibility. So we are allowed to consider a lot of things in that. So we certainly can consider the street experience. This building is of moderate height. It's 5 stories and is placed not directly on the sidewalk. So it's not going to be looming over the sidewalk, but at the same time, it's not interrupted with surface parking between the street and the building. They've also done a good job of pulling the building to some degree toward both street fronts, so Kennedy Drive and also to Caledonia Road. I mean, aesthetically, that's really subjective, so it's tough to use the very broad principles that we see in the NPS to really get into that detail for the design work. But in terms of compatibility and consistency with the neighborhood and the development that's there, it's staff's opinion that it does do a pretty good job of that. So that's why it's coming forward with a positive recommendation.
Okay, well, I look forward to that, and I hope the applicant is really listening on that street experience, especially. You know, it's a great community, and walking is important. And if they were walking there to go to the right types of business that would encourage it, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Kent, do you have questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I ask Jamie Allen to put the slide up with the artist rendering on it again?
So you want the site plan?
No, did we have
the building concept plan?
the concept? Yeah.
So, okay, so slide 2 for the clerk.
We'll just be bringing that up if we ask for community council's patience.
Yep.
We're a very patient bunch there, Simon.
So here's the
No
rendering. Is this the image that you were thinking of, Councillor Kent?
Yeah, thank you. So my question around this is the site plan, like the number of floors and the measurement that we take on the footprint of the building, is that based on the lowest level, or is it based on the furthest piece that's sticking out of the building?
So are you referring to the maximum height?
No, maximum print. Yeah, the footprint of the building on the parcel.
So that's not something that we specifically regulated for this property.
Oh, okay.
The development agreement, we're asking for, what we've done instead is mandate specific setbacks from the property lines.
Yes.
And that would be the parts of the building can't go past those setback lines. So if you drew it out on, yep, sorry, go ahead.
No matter what level it was on, it's as if it's a full all the way to the ground. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and the heights, when you determine the height, do you include that ground floor if there's entry into underground parking? Is that considered part of a height?
Yeah, so the maximum height, so there's different ways that we can define it. In this bylaw, it defines the top part of the building to the average grade. So that's how we measure the height. So we take a measurement of the grade at each corner of the building and take the average and measure from there.
And is this parcel relatively flat?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Could I ask for slide 10 to become up forward? I just want to have a look at the footprint and the layout of the building and access. Yes. All right. So I see. Okay, the driveway access for the in-ground or on-ground parking coming off of Kennedy Drive. I'm just kind of curious how far that was from the intersection. So it seems to be far enough away not to be a traffic hazard. And I want to see the sidewalk street experience that Councilor Mancini was talking about. It seems like there is enough of a front yard there that they could put some extra patio space, if you wish, for an outdoor experience. So that I see that capacity is there from the setback from the street. So that site plan does show some opportunities there, and hopefully, as Councilman Mancini has said, that the applicant may be listening.
So
all
just
right.
to note, sorry, go ahead.
Are there any other further questions of councilors? I see none in the chat line, so can we go now for the presentation from the applicant? So who we have from the applicant here tonight? We believe we have Cesar Saleh. Am I saying that right, sir? Cesar Saleh?
Yes, you are. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, members of Community Council, good evening. My name is Cesar Sala. I am with WM Fairs Architects, who is representing the owners for the subject project. Thank you for considering our case, and thank you to HRM staff for their collaboration. We are happy to present to you our proposed mixed-use building at the corner of Caledonia Road and Kennedy Drive, which has positive recommendation from HRM staff. The planning and public engagement process has gone quite smoothly from the onset. This is mainly due to the following merits of the proposal. Can I ask staff to put maybe slide number 10?
If you can just bear with us just a moment, we will upload the staff presentation and pause your time.
Are you going to take it for Rockies?
Yep, the slide should now be shared.
Thank you. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you. All good.
Okay, thank you. So the As I said, the planning and public engagement process has gone quite smoothly from the onset, and this is mainly because of the following merits. We are replacing an old and tired commercial building, which has a large parking lot abutting the street, with a new mixed-use building following good design and planning principles. The proposal is for an infill development in an established residential area with existing multiple unit dwelling uses of a scale that is similar to the proposed development. The subject site is on an existing transit route and close to employment centers, including Prince Andrew High School, Caledonia Road Junior High, Nova Scotia Community College, parks, and recreational facilities. The proposed building is set closer to the street with a 20-foot landscape buffer from Caledonia Road. It is 5 stories in height, transitioning to 3 stories along the park with a landscape buffer. The commercial and residential entrances are well defined, including an integrated parking garage entrance off of Kennedy Drive. The building form is well articulated through a series of vertical elements with interchanging materials and colors, and emphasized through projections, recesses, and inset balconies. The building facade includes a combination of horizontal siding, architectural panels, and glass at the commercial storefronts for increased transparency. Both HRM staff and our design team concur that the proposal in front of you today is reasonably consistent with the intent of the Dartmouth Municipal Planning Strategy, and we hope to get your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from councilors? I believe Councilor Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Salo, thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. I think you heard my comments I was made to Jamie Allen, about the actual building and the street presence. I think there's a huge opportunity to enhance the street presence there. And so, what is the owner's intent, and do they have a sense of what type of businesses they would like to attract on the first floor, that commercial?
Not at this point, unfortunately. I don't have any list of potential tenants for that site. Again, it would be local neighborhood commercial at grade. We've allowed for separate entrances, well defined from the existing residential entrance, and the underground parking. We've located it on a side street so that we can have a clean, transparent streetscape that is animated and pedestrian friendly. This building is set at grade, so you don't see any foundation wall. It's from the front. So we have all the elements for a good pedestrian experience, and I think we've taken advantage of it from the front. We've located our residential entrance at the front, and we've located our commercial entrance at the front. Where there is the commercial space, we have high ratio of glass, so that we have transparency between the outdoors and the indoors. As far as the location, the potential use of what's at grade, I don't have a list of tenants at this time.
And that's fine, Mr. Sala, and you're correct. And I agree with your comments, and the chair also made the same comments. The physical opportunity is there, the infrastructure is there for it. So asking if this is approved today, and hopefully the owner's listening, and that being selective of the businesses that go in there. So my other question, Mr. Chair, if I may, is, looking at where the site is, affordable housing is a question in everybody's mind. Is there any sense, Mr. Sala, at this point in time, of what the rent may be in this building?
I don't have that information at this point. I can share with you that the building has a mixture of unit sizes and unit types. It is predominantly of 2-bedroom type, of family type units. Yes. The ratio is, we're proposing is 70 to 30, 72 bedrooms to 30% one bedrooms. I can also share with you that our client is in discussions, is preparing to make an application to an affordable housing program provided by CMHC, where you commit to providing below fair market value rents, and in return to incentives when it comes to financing, very lucrative incentives when it comes to financing. So I know that program is being followed, and he's going to explore that for this project. Besides that, I don't have any other information that I can add.
You know, Mr. Sala, I'm very pleased to hear that he's going after the CHMC funding. I think that's extremely important for this community. So I appreciate your presentation, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
And I can share with you a little bit about how that works. You have to provide a total value of 10% below for all the units, yes. But you can also condense that to go 20% less for 50% of the units, or even higher. So there will be an integrated component of affordability within the building, and we're seeing more and more clients take advantage of that program. Right now, it is available. We're not sure how long it will be, but right now it is available for the development industry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just to make comment about business activity that has been there in the past. So I recall in my younger days, there might have been a bingo hall there and an arcade, but now recently there's a convenience store and a pizza shop, I believe, are the current occupants there. So I assume that perhaps another pizza shop or maybe a laundromat, maybe some of the desirable services required in the area, or like you said, a bakery, a nice coffee shop. So we'll see what happens. You know, we're not too far from the Dartmouth East Community Center, as well as you got the Caledonia Junior High School and Prince Andrew High just down the street. So I think you have a very good marketplace for a lot of potential services. All right, so that's it for comments and questions from members of council. We'll go now to the public hearing. As stated earlier, this is a virtual public hearing. You had to register as of 4:30 yesterday to be able to speak at tonight's meeting. And today we have two registered speakers, Norman LeGlant and Kalia Gandhi. I hope I pronounced her name right. So Norman, are you present online for us? You can make your presentation, please.
Yes, I am present.
Thank you. Go ahead. You have 5 minutes, sir.
All right, perfect. Good evening, Chair and members of the Community Council and everyone participating in this public consultation. My name is Norman Legault. I have lived in Dartmouth my entire life, and specifically this neighborhood now for 13 years. I own property in this neighborhood, and I've been a landlord here since I bought my home in 2008. I'm in the military, and I understand the importance of time. So I'm not going to waste any of yours, and I'm just going to get to my points why I believe this is a positive direction to move in Dartmouth East. I remember, and I think David will contest to this, I remember when the spot on Caledonia Road was TCA Bingos in the 90s. But since then, that location has had multiple uses, all of which have not lasted for a prolonged stay. There was a church, a buy and sell spot, and most recently, I believe, a sports camp in the larger area. This neighborhood needs some new life and some revitalization. When I bought my home here and started renovating, eventually progressed to exterior upgrades. What I noticed in my neighborhood was the other property owners and landlords seeing a finished product and started to follow in my footsteps. It caused others in the neighborhood to want more, to build a better, brighter community, and to repair these aging homes that were built in the 60s and 70s. I believe this development will give others the same drive. What has happened in our neighborhood in the last 10 or 15 years? NSCC Akerley has had a huge upgrade to that facility. Prince Andrew has also had a smaller upgrade done to the high school. The rec center was built next to Caledonia Junior High, I believe in 2010, but I couldn't find that information. Beasley Field got a $2 million upgrade for Indigenous games that were unfortunately canceled due to COVID-19. The Ford dealership on Main and Caledonia was torn down, which is a great opportunity for more housing, a major development, and in my mind, a Metro Transit terminal at some point. My point in listing all these community upgrades is to say this neighborhood has been on a positive move for the last 10 to 20 years. This has all led to one point where the facilities built in the 60s are falling apart and need rebuilding. Homes are right in sync with that same timeline. No homes will be demolished in this development. The building, the sports camp, the pizza shop, or the bakery or what's not, the convenience store, they're all leaking. They should be replaced. the lot that the commercial space is located in needs real repair or needs to be completely replaced. This will raise the property values in the vicinity, hopefully getting homeowners and landlords to take a bit of pride and start to upgrade their homes. The apartment style with retail and commercial in the first portion of the building is trendy right now and will be the wave of the future, I believe. More homes are created here, and the business that are currently established in this location can stay, which I use that convenience store all the time. I really hope the guys do stay. This is a win-win for everybody involved. Rent could increase due to the increasing land value in the area, but it's not even close to the amount charged in downtown Dartmouth or Halifax. I'm going to end with this. We need to take advantage of this space. It's a positive way to forward. It's a positive way forward, and the neighborhood is not affected directly by the redevelopment. This will be a great addition to Dartmouth East, and I am 100% in favor of this development.
Thank you, Norm. Are there any questions for Mr. Legault? I do highly agree with you about the transit terminal.
There's NSCC is right there, the high school is right there, there's communities all the way around. It's just I see things, and it's not it's not far-fetched.
Quite logical. Hopefully the local council is listening. All right, we have another speaker. We have Caledonia Gandhi. I hope I pronounced that right. Please, if you're on the phone.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Kautilya Gandhi. I'm normally known as KJ Gandhi. I'm a builder, an architect, and a developer in the area. I'm building some homes not so far from this location. And I think I entirely agree with the previous speaker that this area requires a boost, a kind of a new vision. And this building and this design provides that, and that will definitely encourage the surroundings to be further developed and upgraded in a way that the whole area will become a much better place to stay. I don't have anything more to say, but I really support this development.
Thank you, KJ, for that. Any questions from any members of council? Hearing no more, call for an opportunity. If Cesar would like to make any comments for anything he heard, you have an opportunity to add any further comments for what you've heard from the public. You have that opportunity now, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Just following on Councilor Mancini's comments, we do see some opportunity to increase maybe the outdoor courtyard area so that it is more prominent. So we will work on that. I'll make that suggestion to the client, and we definitely will make that as part of the building permit package.
Hearing no further, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Councilor Mancini, I believe you want to move the closing the public hearing?
Yes, please, Mr. Chair. So moved.
Seconded by Councilor Kent. I think I saw her wave her hand. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, I'll say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. So Councilor Mancini, we should take the floor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion on the floor, Mr. Chair. That the Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council adopt the amendment to the land use bylaw for Dartmouth as set out in attachment A of the January 22nd, 2021 report. So moved.
Seconded, please, by Councilor Kent, Councilor Austin. I see his hand. Sorry, Councilor Austin, seconds. Okay. Comments, please. Councilor Mancini.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Austin. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, staff. Thank you to the applicant. I support this development on this area, as stated by others. The building that's there now is tired. It's an opportunity to enhance the community, and I think it's welcomed by the community. I guess the biggest issue I heard, actually, colleagues, is that, well, is the pizza place coming back? So that was one of the biggest concerns I had. Of course, we had concerns of traffic and all other things from the community, but all the comments I heard are positive. People welcoming a new building here, and I think it's been quite clear. My concerns are that street presence. Glad to hear that the consultant will work with the his client and making sure that street presence is important. I'm glad to hear about the affordable housing opportunity. That's fantastic. So I just hope that colleagues, you support this development. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick follow-up from Councillor Mancini's questioning around the facade, the look that fits within, and the answer was that it fits within the community. But I would encourage the presenter here that's working on behalf of the owner that, you know, this is an opportunity. And when I read the presentation or so the submissions from people that and tonight's presenters is they're excited. It's encouraging to see something fresh and new. And I guess I just encourage you to be bold, because I do recall and know that area enough to know that some of those have been there for decades, and they are, and you know, to have them fit in with that doesn't necessarily move to a new direction. This has an opportunity to be a catalyst for change on a lot of levels. As things change, people get excited and they want to invest in their own properties, and or maybe there some other developments that might come along. So I encourage you to be bold. I certainly am happy to support it, but sometimes just because it needs to fit in doesn't mean it is the right decision every single time. I think that you have to be reasonable about it, and there's a balance and approach. But anyway, just some thoughts for you to consider.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Any other comments from any of the councillors? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
sorry, Mr.
mute.
Yeah, thank you for everyone for participating in the public hearing tonight. Have yourself a pleasant evening. We'll get on with the next part of the agenda. We have no variance appeals or hearings tonight. Any correspondence, petitions, or presentations? Clerk, do we have any correspondence to make note of?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Community Council, we have had several pieces of correspondence that have been distributed to members of Community Council for items 10.1.1 and 10.1.2, the two public hearings.
Thank you. Any petitions, councillors? Hearing none. Are there any? There's no presentations for tonight. We'll go on to the next order of business, staff reports, item 13.1.1, creation of disc golf course in Dartmouth. Councillor Mancini, would this be you or Councillor Austin? Councillor Austin.
Councillor Austin, yeah.
Thank you,
Councillor
Mr.
Austin.
Chair. This one is indeed mine. So I'll put the motion on. It's recommended that Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council recommend to Regional Council that to direct the Chief Administrative Officer, CAO, to take no further action on the proposal for a disc golf course at the North Woodside Community Center, and 2, continue to undertake the disc golf pilot project and related initiatives and assessments as part of the municipality's ongoing and future recreation programming.
Seconded by Councillor Mancini, I believe. Any further debate? Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, I mean, you know, I accept the report. Part of me is a little disappointed on it, just because this location is actually, to me, I think has a lot going for it in terms of park space. We don't have many places that are next to an existing community center that have washrooms, that are on the trail, that are on transit. I mean, this is actually a fantastic bit of totally forgotten park space that I do get complaints about from time to time, just because there are occasionally there are security concerns about this space. And so it is, you know, if not a disc golf course, there is opportunity there with this particular chunk of municipal land that really doesn't have any purpose for it right now. I was wondering if we have anyone from Parks online tonight, if they could speak to the other initiatives and assessments of disc golf that have come out of this. I understand from the report that there's gear that's been provided at other locations as a direct result of engaging with the disc golf folks.
Garrett Evans, I see, is on board with us tonight. Mr. Evans, yeah, respond, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Community Council. Gareth Evans, Recreation Planning Specialist, Parks and Recreation Policy and Planning. I know there wasn't necessarily a question there from Councillor Austin from the first part, but what I want to point out is that it's not a straight up refusal at this point to ever do anything on those identified lands. It's just we want to gather more information about the data and usage of disc golf within the municipality in advance of developing anything permanent on that location specifically. But as far as pilot programming is concerned, it's a bit of an off-ramp, we'll call it, to get that data and secure it and get it in place so that we can learn more and then develop courses should we get into that sort of business where they're best fit within the municipality and to the scale. So if you're reading through the report, it's a smaller 9-hole kind of micro disc golf course that would have worked on the North Woodside lands. We're not sure right now whether it's an 18 championship style or 18 introductory style. There's still lots to be learned, and we want to partner with the disc golf community and our recreation programming staff and our parks operations staff to make that happen as best as possible.
Okay, thank you for that. And you know, it's I'm glad to hear that it's not no potentially forever, but I know, like, from a parks planning point of view, we have a long list of potential parks to do planning for. You know, I'll just clarify. My disappointment is more of I think before me, Councillor. You know, basically every councillor that's represented this area at some point, maybe even going back to Councillor Kent, has had at some point complaints and challenges with this particular little section. I mean, there was a body that was back there for about 4 months before anyone found it, which was a great deal of concern in the community, natural causes, but still. And it is just prime property. It's right on the trail. It's right on transit. So if not disc golf, it would be nice to actually put this to some sort of use. And so, you know, if it's not disc golf, I mean, it kind of goes back into the hopper for some future day. And that's just my disappointment there. And I realize we have limited resources to put into this sort of thing. So it wasn't meant as a strong criticism. I do accept the staff conclusion. Thank you.
Councillor Kent, you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to chime in and that because Councillor Austin is correct. I did represent that area, and I represented it when we were able to build that beautiful trail and really bring the community back together around a very disconcerting divide when the waste treatment plant was being built, and some odd things around access to the plant and such. And really what was achieved there was significant. And that was like a missing piece. That little parcel of land it's big enough to do something with. And I know at that time when we were talking about what could happen along the trail and how that all would be developed, that piece was kind of set aside as we'll deal with that later. We didn't want it to derail the tremendous work that did get done around the trail and the access to the treatment plant and the park it down below, et cetera, et cetera. So I can imagine, and I kind of am sharing that layer of disappointment for Councillor Austin, because I'm sharing it because I know the community has had an interest there, and it is on a prime location. It is a beautiful location for whatever you did there. So if it's not the disc golf, so be it. But I hope that staff will look at that in a way that brings opportunity there. I think it's well overdue, and I would support that, any efforts that Councillor Austin has on that parcel.
Councillor Austin on rebuttal.
Not rebuttal, chiming in. It would have been, I think for me, Councillor Kent has hit the nail very much on the head, and that past experience I think is useful in this discussion for sure. It would almost be, I feel better about this report if there had been a number 3 saying, well, we should consider this park property for a more formal planning process to see what it could be in the future. So maybe that's something I'll go away and I'll think about before we come to regional council. Thank you.
And my only comment would have been is other alternative sites as well. I think that, for instance, the upper Highland areas, the Dillman parking behind Bicentennial High School, right beside the sportsplex in Dartmouth High School and Transit Terminal, is another great spot to have a disc golf course on, maybe small 9-hole or whatever the case may be. But I think that this time has come for have more of these. I think there's maybe one in Metro on the western side of Halifax. So I think it's time to have more of these recreational outlets available, and maybe along some of our trails, or maybe in Cole Harbour Parks, or somewhere we have some large open spaces that this could be achieved, and very low cost infrastructure. So hopefully we'll take it and run with it somewhere. Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions from councilors? Councilor Mancini.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My comments are just comments, no questions. It's around disc golf, and because staff may not be that familiar with it, it is a growing sport. And it wasn't that long ago that all of us on council never heard about pickleball. Well, we know where pickleball is in our community, and it's taken off. And I look at mountain biking and pump tracks, and we need to be creative. And I think Councilor Kent used the word bold in the previous presentation. I asked park staff to be bold and look at sports and like disc golf that don't take the same kind of infrastructure as some of the things I just mentioned. And we should embrace that opportunity. I think COVID has taught us all how much our residents want to embrace the outdoors and take advantage of the outdoors. And so I fully support the idea of following through and looking at even a temporary location or a pilot on disc golf. And as Mr. Chair, you mentioned, there are lots of open spaces that we own. So let's follow through on that sooner than later. And thank you, and I'll support the recommendation that's on the floor.
Any further debate? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Thank you very much, Council. Item 13.2.
Councilor, can I just?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Evans.
I understand there wasn't a question there from Councilor Mancini, but I think I just really want to illuminate that we do already have staff on board from a policy and planning side of things. We've started to socialize this with our colleagues going back to even last July, August with recreation programming staff. Okay. And we're working with parks operations to ensure that we cite things if we are going to cite a course within a municipal parkland, we want to ensure that there's no conflict with other park users. And then from there, we gather our data, and if there's a large demand, which we anticipate there could be based on the significant increase during this pandemic for this sport specifically, we need to see whether we're doing something that we either partner with the disc golf community on, or we take it on as the lead, as a municipality on a standalone basis. So we're very aware of it and working forward with it.
Thanks, Jared. I appreciate it. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councilor.
Thank you very much for that further information, Garrett. Okay, item 13.2, members of Community Council. Any motions or any items to bring forward? If not, I'd just like to make one comment. My background picture, the Nova Scotia Tartan Swirl, is the artwork of Bob Pettipaw of Woodlawn in Dartmouth. He made this project. There's also another version of this as well for supporting veterans. So if you'd like to buy some prints, Bob Pettipaw is the artist, Woodlawn, Dartmouth, and you can find some of his prints, I believe, at the Seaforth General Store in Seaforth.
You're awesome, Mr. Chair. Trish, we can learn a lot from this man.
Yeah. You're not related to him anyway, are you, David? No, sorry, don't answer that.
You're muted, David.
You're muted, Mr. Chair.
So there's no motions of members, no in-camera items, no added items, any notices of motion. Hearing none. Public participation, we have that opportunity, but I believe no one has signed up tonight. So I guess we have to get out there the word about our virtual meeting. Still have public participation opportunities.
Great.
So hopefully we'll have something that. So our next meeting is going to be not June the 3rd, but an earlier date, I believe in May. I believe that was the 20th. I believe it may have been May 20th. We'll confirm that when we get the agendas. So there's no further business. I'll take for a motion for adjournment. Councilor Purdy, do I get a motion for adjournment from you?
You do.
All
I
right.
move we adjourn this meeting.
At 7:31, motion to adjourn has been received. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and good night all.
Thank you.
Be
Good night.
safe. Be safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.